Hi everyone, this is Heather Lofton from the Flourish.Academy. It's our weekly Q&A. And I imagine that the video looks a little bit grainy today, but that's because it is pouring down rain and it is somewhat of a dreary day here in Western Pennsylvania. Oh yeah, we've had a lot of these recently, but that's okay because it keeps everything green and then the flowers bloom and it's fine. Okay, we're gonna get started with our questions this week. The first one is from Ashley. She says, have you reached the satisfaction level of feeling like you've made it in this industry? If so, what, where, when prompted that feeling of satisfaction? And the short answer to that, Ashley, is no. You never feel like you've made it. And if you do, then you have to push yourself to a bigger, harder to reach goal. Now, there have certainly been times in my career where, depending on what I've been working on, I feel more competent, which does lead to confidence in what I'm doing. I feel really good about what I do. But in terms of feeling like you've arrived, no. And again, if you ever start to feel pretty confident to the point that you feel like you've arrived, there's a problem. You need to continue to learn, continue to grow. Like I tell the kids, I'll be like, giving them a hard time about something and they'll say, I'm doing my best or we're doing our best. And I'll say, false. You could always do better. So if you feel like you've made it, then there's an issue. Hi, Christine. Yes. I'm glad that you could make it live. Thank you for commenting. I know comments are working, so I'm glad that you're here. So the question was from Ashley, do you ever feel like you've made it? Negative. No, you don't. So continue to grow and learn. Am I satisfied with where I'm at? Yeah, for the most part, but I always want to push myself to be better. Okay, my friend Shawnee, her name is Shawnell. I call her Shawnee, Shawnee Poo, variety of things. We're very good friends. She says, how do you deliver photos? Currently, I am delivering photos through Pixie Set online for all portrait clients. Weddings are different. Wedding clients get a package in the mail and they get their photos on USB because it's a different type of session. But all portrait sessions currently are being delivered via Pixie Set. She goes on to say, do you show many unedited proofs? And if so, using which software? And then allow the client to choose which photos to edit. I'm sorry, what? Do I show unedited photos to a client? Never, never in a million years would a client see an unedited photo because I'm asking them at that point to use their imagination. Oh, imagine what this would look like with a beautiful edit. And they can't do that. That's not within the realm of their brain. So do I show them unedited photos? I mean, you'd have to do that over my cold, dead body. No, that is never happening. But then you said, do you show them so the client can choose which photos to edit? And actually there was another question about this from someone else this past week in the community group. And I'm sorry, I can't remember who asked it, but she basically said the same thing, that she sends these unedited photos to the client and asks them which ones to edit. I'm sorry, why in the name of Mike would you ever ask your client to pick which photos to edit? That makes no sense to me. Maybe there's a reason that I just don't understand, and certainly you can run your business however you'd like. I don't have a problem with how you run your business. I would never do that. That's like giving the client, 1,000 photos and saying, hey, I want you to call these for me. Tell me which ones you like and which ones you want me to edit. Oh, and while you're at it, why don't you tell me how to edit them and then I'll edit them? That is not a level of service I ever want to provide to my clients. I want the level of service to be over the top. And in doing so, I'm going to make sure that they only see the best, perfect, edited images, period. Otherwise, you're asking them to do your job. Now, I suppose there could be some instances maybe where a friend asks you to take some photos and you're like, here are the photos, do what you want. Or you know what, when people like Susie and I switch sessions, or Chrissy and I, they'll take photos and they'll send me raw files because I'll just pick out ones and edit a few, and sometimes they'll edit them as well. That's a different scenario. But if we're talking about paying clients, I would never ask them, hey, what photos do you want me to edit? Oh, you're asking them to think, you're asking them to do your job. That is not okay with me. No, I'm not doing that. They will get the narrowed down, best images. I want them to love their photos. I don't want them to have to use their imaginations, and I'm certainly not going to ask them to call their own session. If you have a hard time picking out which ones are your favorite, can you imagine how hard it is for them when they're in the photos or their kids are in their photos? Holy moly! No. Christine says, and if they do come up with what they think will look like and what you deliver isn't, yikes, exactly. What if they pick, you send these unedited photos, and what if one is soft or slightly out of focus and you missed it? And they're like, this is my favorite. I want to blow it up to 24 by 36 on the wall. And you're like, whoops, no, sorry, you can't. I mean, I can just see all kinds of scenarios where that could go in a bad direction. Wow, no, Shawnee, I love you. I would never show someone unedited photos. No, not a client, not a paying client. That's my job. Okay, hopefully that helps. A little passionate about that subject. Christy asks, do you have any advice on retaining future business from clients that you have referred out to others for session types that you don't provide? This is a good question. For example, I refer out family sessions now because I truly don't enjoy them, but my husband said I'm sabotaging the opportunity to do newborn photos for them if they have another baby in the future. I prefer to send names instead of just saying no, but would love guidance on how to help them return to me if they have a need for what I do provide. This is a good question because it happened to me all throughout my career. I photographed everything in the beginning, and then I focused on weddings, just weddings, and then my clients started to procreate, and they wanted me to take photos of them returning a newborn because they knew me, right? We formed a relationship from the wedding, and so at the beginning I did, but then I figured out I just couldn't do all of those types of sessions and be as successful and focused as I wanted, so I started turning them down, and that was really hard because if you can get a client from, say, engagement on, you could have a client for life if you offered all those sessions, but I don't, and it sounds like you don't either. So the key is, how do I get them to come back? So let's say you are a newborn photographer and you just do newborns, and I think that's might be what you're focused on. And then those kids get older, and then they want family pictures. You refer them out. You're asking, how do you get them back? Well, I know Ann Wilmus does it, and she does it very well. Now, ironically, when I was doing weddings and started photographing the newborns of my clients, I was kind of getting to a point where I knew it wasn't going to work out. At that same time, I had just photographed Ann's wedding. She started mentoring with me as she began her business. She focused on newborns, so I started sending all of my wedding clients to her. In fact, if you look behind me, on that board, there's a whole bunch of newborn announcements. Those are all from past wedding clients of mine that I sent to Ann Wilmus, who then sent me announcements. And I love that. I love seeing that. Okay, but then the key is, how does Ann get them to come back? Because she's going to refer them out to somebody else for family sessions, because she does not do that. She only does studio newborn. Well, she creates an amazing experience. She develops a relationship, she builds trust, and they love her. So they continue to come back to her over and over, and then they go to a different photographer for their other needs. So it is absolutely possible. You have to build relationships, develop that trust, get them kind of in your circle, remind them of who you are, and maybe a little bit of aggressiveness doesn't hurt either, meaning if you see one of your clients is pregnant again, oh my goodness, you're pregnant again, congratulations, when can we do newborn photos? When do you want to schedule your session? You can follow up with them, keep in the loop, but it is definitely possible. It just takes a little more effort on your part, but that was really good, and they will come back to you. Why would they come back to you? If they love you. If they like you, they will come back to you, and if they don't, they won't. But I know that it's possible. I've been able to do it. Ann's been able to do it. I've seen others do it as well. It can happen. Alicia says, for websites, when you first started your website, what is one thing you wish you knew then besides SEO? Whew, that's a tough one, because resounding at the top is SEO. Truly, that is the number one thing I wish I knew and I was paying more attention to when I first started my website. But that's the obvious, which is why you said, what's the second thing? And I think the second thing is, I wish I knew a little bit more about marketing back then. You know, what I know now from the books that I read. I wish I could have applied it then. For instance, when someone first lands on your website, you have about 3 seconds to show them that they are in the right place. And they should be able to see or read something that instantly speaks to them and says, hey, you should be here, or you should not, and they'll click away, and that's fine, by the way. So you need some sort of value proposition or statement really big on your homepage above the fold that says what you do and specifically what's in it for them, and with a very clear call to action. So I wish I kind of knew, I mean, there's a million tips and tricks like that, but I wish I knew that early on, that your website should pass the caveman grunt test. So if a caveman looked at your website, he should be able to like grunt out, oh, wedding photos, me get married, you know, and then no, I mean, it should be very obvious that I'm a wedding photographer. And if you're a newborn, it should be very obvious that you photograph newborns, and how, whether you are lifestyle or studio, very, very obvious. If you make people dig around on your site and search for who you are or what you do, you're confusing them. And if you confuse, you lose. So I would say in general, when it comes to my website, I wish I knew about marketing and how to appeal to my ideal client or target market. And there are certainly lots of books, podcasts, websites to learn more about that, but you should be either attracting or repelling people instantly when they hit your website, because if they're confused, they're just not going to understand. You're causing them to think. People hate to think. They're going to close the browser and move on. I hope that helps. Okay, Vanessa, I saw your question, but I answered it in the comments. Vanessa was asking about the review. Did I do the review for the Peak Design camera strap and the sling strap that I picked up from YM Camera a couple weeks ago? And I did. I posted a link to that below your question so you can see that review. I loved it. I'm using it. It's fantastic. Okay, Desiree says, do you think that offering mini sessions sabotages a photographer's standard business / pricing structure? Sabotage. No, I don't think that it does. I think that if it's in line with your pricing and where you're at, let me give you an example. If you are a $2,000 portrait photographer, pretty high end, and you offer mini sessions for $50, yeah, I think there's a disconnect there and it's not going to make sense. So if you're a $2,000 photographer and you have mini sessions for $500, $700, $800, all right, no, that makes sense, right? So it just depends on your pricing model and who are you trying to target. So let me give you an example of this. My friend Lindsay, she does newborn and family. She's in Ohio. She's a contributor with the Flourish Academy. You know her, Lindsay Delisio. She's super cute. Okay, so she started when she was 17. She was obviously less expensive then than she is now. She's much higher priced. She does in-person sales. Well, as she grew her business, certainly she grew out of the market for some of her past clients, right? Because they were with her when she was a $50 photographer. Well, now if she's 2,000 plus, they can't afford that. So Lindsay offers mini sessions because she loves those people that helped her start her business. She has built relationships with them and she doesn't want to leave them high and dry. And by the way, they still want to use her. They just can't afford a full session. So they're going to come to her when she offers her minis 2 or 3 times a year. And it's brilliant. She fills them instantly, and I would bet almost always with people that she knows, meaning these typically aren't cold clients. There could be a cold client in that mix, but typically these are people that have been with her, that have grown with her, but not necessarily into her new pricing structure. So do I think it devalues what you do? Absolutely not. I think you can do it, and you can do it very successfully. Kelsey says, is it best to pick a specific niche to focus your photography on? I'd like to, but I'm struggling to find one for me. I've mainly done family, a couple lifestyle newborn sessions, then an elopement, then a maternity, a little commercial work, but nothing has really spoken to me. I was talking with a photographer yesterday about this, and I always say in the beginning of your photography career, you have to be diverse. You have to photograph everything because you have to figure out what you love. You don't know until you actually photograph it. Now, some people do know, for instance, they say to me, oh my goodness, I would never touch weddings. I don't even want to try it. I don't have any interest, and that's fine. But in terms of different types of portrait sessions, you have to be diverse. Shoot it all, and as long as you're shooting, you'll start to develop some clarity around what you love and what you don't love. Pay attention. Pay attention to what gives you energy and what drags you down. If you leave a session or you're editing a session, do you feel really excited, or do you feel like, oh, I really don't feel like doing this? Pay attention. Those are cues that will kind of lead you in the right direction. But clarity comes from engagement, not words. And that just means that the more you shoot, the more clarity you'll get. We could talk about it all day long, but until you are actually in the trenches, you won't know. So, in the beginning, you're diverse, shoot everything. Then, maybe you narrow it down, you specialize in a few things, and you become an expert in those areas, and you grow your business in those areas. And then possibly later on in your career, you can diversify again. So it's kind of like a cycle, right? You diversify, then you specialize, and then maybe you diversify, or you pivot later in your career to something different. But the most successful photographers that I know are specialists. And I know for a fact there are many, many of my bridal clients that hired me specifically because I was a wedding photographer. I was an expert in weddings and nothing else. And that's why they hired me. Anne is an expert in studio newborns, and that's why people go to her. So their businesses, my business, her business, they just tend to soar as a result of that, because we focused on that niche, we became experts, we became known for it. You can be a generalist and still succeed. I'm not saying you can't. It's just if you say, I remember working with a client, I bet you this is 10 years ago, and on her website she had that she specializes in engagement, maternity, newborn, weddings, equine, farm shows, seniors, everything under the sun she specialized in. Okay, no, I'm sorry, sister, you don't specialize in anything because you have no focus. You're all over the place. That's confusing to a client. What is it exactly that you do? I'm not sure. So I would recommend specializing when you've landed on what you love. But again, specializing doesn't have to mean just one thing. It could be 2 or 3 things. It could be, you want to work with maternity and newborn through 6 months to a year, that age range. I focused on, engagements and weddings. Mara's focused on boudoir. Everybody has a different area where they tend to excel. So continue to explore and you'll figure out what you love. Marie says, you've mentioned you listen to many podcasts and are so kind to share some of those nuggets of wisdom. That said, can you recommend a few podcasts to listen to regularly that would be beneficial for a person in the early stages of starting a photography business? Thank you so much. It's a great question. I love podcasts. I live for them. I listen to them every day as often as I can, always first thing in the morning. Oh, thanks, Kelsey. Thank you. I'm glad you were here to hear that. So I get up in the morning and I exercise, and I'm always listening to podcasts. Now, where I'm at, Marie, I listen to a lot of business and marketing podcasts and growth type things, so I don't follow a lot of photography podcasts. I know that Sprouting Studio has a podcast and Six Figure Photographer has a podcast because Leanne has been a guest on those. So I know those ones, but I don't listen to them. So I would have a hard time recommending industry-specific podcasts, but the ones I am currently listening to on repeat that I love, number 1 is Donald Miller with the Story Brand. I love Donald Miller, and that is a marketing podcast. I listen to Entree Leadership. That's from the Dave Ramsey team because I love Dave Ramsey. I listened to one called Creating Disney Magic with Lee Cockerell. He's the former vice president of Disney. Now, the thing is, I'm not a huge Disney person, so, that's a special type of person that loves Disney, not me, but Disney does things right, and they do have magic in their industry. I've read his books, I listen to his podcast. Now, I like that one because it's short form. It's usually about 15 to 17 minutes long, and that's pretty nice. Donald Miller's is 30 to 45 minutes, and Entree Leadership is sometimes an hour plus. All great podcasts. I would say there's a few more. Those are my core ones that I listen to every day repeatedly, but then I probably have 10 or 15 more that I'm subscribed to that I jump back and forth. This is a matter of trying out several and finding out which ones resonate with you. And it depends on where you're at in your life, in your career, and even your mindset in that day. So for instance, this morning, I listened to Donald Miller. I think I jumped into Entree Leadership. Oh gosh, and my mind was just not in that mode this morning, and so I turned on Steve Harvey on YouTube. Actually, not just his comedy, but his interviews that he does, because he's very successful and he's a funny dude. So I watched some of that because he has really, really good success principles and he's funny. So I can learn what I want about business success, personal development, and growth, and laugh at the same time. So I enjoyed that. It depends. I hope that helps. It was sort of a generic answer. I apologize. But if anyone watching listens to any photography podcast that they love, please post them and we could share them with you. Maybe we could do maybe a weekly thread, like what podcasts are you listening to right now? What are you loving? And we could share that. That's a good idea. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, Stacy says, do you ever go to any conferences such as Imaging, Shutterfest, Clickaway, etc.? And if so, what is your favorite and why? Good question. I have not been to any of those recently, but when I started, I went to every single conference and workshop that was available. I flew all over the country. I spent all of my money because I love to learn. And I would say so I don't even know if some of these are still around, but I was a member of the DWF, the Digital Wedding Forum. I loved their forum. I loved their conferences. Also WPPI, I went to that. Imaging is a really good one. I've not been to Clickaway, so I'm not familiar. But I imagine it's pretty good. I don't know. Taryn might know a little bit more about that. I've not been to Shutterfest. Imaging is great. I would highly recommend Imaging. I've also been to Photoshop World because I love Photoshop and post-processing. So I think that these conferences are absolutely worth it, and you should try to get to at least one conference per year. I don't care where you're at in your business or your photography, at least one conference per year. There is no substitute for that electric environment, that in-person learning, and the networking. People that you meet, it is incredible. So definitely look into all of those. If I had to pick one for you, I would probably pick Imaging. It's just a good, solid conference. They have a great trade show. Nicole sometimes speaks, my friend Nicole Begley there, and teaches. So I think that that's a really good one. I think that I covered all of the questions in the thread. Do you have anything else that I can help you with today? If so, please post it in the comment while I just look through here and see if there's anything that I missed. Oh, and also, I'm going to be at YM Camera this afternoon around 2 p.m. probably. If you want to stop by, I am more than happy to answer any questions, help you with gear selection, play with a few things. I am headed there because I want to rent some different lenses for my wedding tomorrow. So specifically 2 Tamron lenses that I want to try out. They have a wide, and it's not the same focal length as the Nikon I usually use. I usually use the Nikon 14 to 24 to 8. I can't remember the focal length of the Tamron, but it's in that similar ultra wide range. I want to just play with it. So I'm going to head out there. If you would like to join me, please do. All right, I don't see anything else. I hope you get, I was crossing, I hope you guys, girls, because I think it's all ladies on here. I hope you guys have a great week. Continue to flourish. I'll see you soon.